with all that's happening and all that we've been getting hit, I still have 0 applicants for Ryan's position. That starts at $91,000. There are those in Roswell who thinks $91,000 is a lot of money for a senior engineer. It's not. Engineer and tech positions, City of Roswell is a fine place, in my opinion, to work, but we're not as competitive as we think we are, and we're not as competitive as the public thinks we are. So what I'm asking for you is look at the scope of work, if you'll send it to consent agenda, and then whenever we go back to normal business, the RFP will go out.
Any questions from committee members?
No, sir.
Mr. Perry?
And I'm not asking to name names, but are we expecting are we expecting that the other 4 giving us another 20 years, or what are we looking at? From that, I mean, for the 4 that are left, I know at least 2 or 3 of you have been with us for a long time.
I'm on my 2nd career with the city.
I know.
Jim Sexy's on his 2nd career. Bernadette's on her 1st, but I think he bought 15 years? 19 years. Lyndon, he's got 15 years with us. We did hire a new lab man. He's in the lab now, so I got that one taken care of. I'm going to guess, in his late 20s. He's a master's degree in civil engineering with a master's in earthquake engineering. So I think we got the lab there, and once he passes his fundamental engineering, I see a potential engineer there. But still, that's a project, and I don't mind projects. I've taught, I'll continue to teach until I drop. But the rest of us are committed. To answer your question, I'm in no rush to leave. And even though I don't get along with some of the people in the city and some of the government, everybody knows that, it's my job to take care of the city, and I take my job seriously.
Any other comments, questions? Well, as far as I'm concerned, I understand the purpose of what you're asking, but the concern that I have is it seems like a way of privatizing engineering. And I understand that you haven't had any applicants and so forth. And I'm not a proponent of bringing in contractors to do city work.
I'm glad you have that comment, because let me give you some other information. I deal with contractors, consultants all the time. An inspector, a consultant inspector, was $94 an hour, is going up. If you want an engineer with my experience, starting is $240 an hour. So I don't see that with the amount of volume that the city of Roswell has now, it should have, and I see once we get back on our feet that we always got to rebuild stuff. We always have stuff to build. So if the city can't afford us, it's going to be a hard time to afford a privatize, and I don't think the city can afford to privatize. City of Roswell has always been an example in good engineering, an outstanding engineering department. We have our own lab experience. We do our own designs, testing. We're still having all our guys qualified for concrete, asphalt, the works. So I understand your concern, but just from the economic point of view of how expensive consultants are, I think they would, if something happened, you as council, you guys will vote and bring somebody in to take care of business for a while, but you'll be looking for somebody to take care of it and have the passion. Because that's the thing I too feel with consultants. They might be thinking more about the check than the city of Roswell that they're taking care of.
Yeah, I totally agree. Counselor Best?
So here's a couple of my questions. Who instigated putting this together?
I did.
Okay. So that tells me you're thinking real soon to do something, jump, whatever.
Negative.
Okay.
I'm just, again, I'm not a young buck. I
Okay.
think I'm a young buck, but
I get it.
again, as a good supervisor, I was bringing Ryan up, I was bringing Cisco up, they had other ideas. Ryan's been gone since December. I got 2 applicants, one without a license and one that is a reject from another. So in my mind, there's 0 applicants. We have the situation we're in now, COVID.
Okay.
Again, looking at the big picture, and that's what you all pay me for, I just want to make sure that the city of Roswell would be taken care of in a worst-case situation.
So can we reword this where it says scope of services until a new engineer is found or something like that? I mean, can we table this right now, discuss it a little more, and then come back with rewording saying it is available until? Because if I'm reading it right, if there's something in here that you can't do that particular day, you can go and get private help. And I'm a big advocate of private industry because I came from the private industry world. I get where you're coming from, I get where Juan's coming from. So let's get it to where we can reword it, saying that it's just there just in case.
Well, some of this, let's say I get a project where I need to do some environmental right-of-way. We're not trained to do that.
Correct.
So we want to use some of that for some of the projects. On the day-to-day activity, this verbiage is actually from 2 other entities that have similar contracts. So I know where you're coming from. I don't know what you would like to put in there. As far as putting it on hold, I would still like to go for it to go to consent, Counselor. And the only reason I say what's going to happen, and I don't know if you counselors have all talked to Joe, so I'm sure some of you have. We're going to put a slowdown on some of the projects, RFP and stuff that's going out. So from my point of view, I'd like to have this, and if you have some other language, we can do that, or we can certainly talk to Aaron and get some other language. But I would like it to proceed to consent agenda, even with an amendment, just so when we get back to normal, that we're going to have a lot of stuff to get back to work.
Counselor Best, are you still?
Well, I just think we need to change the verbiage on it and not saying that we're going to totally roll over and give everything to, if Lord forbid something happens that we don't have our head engineer, that everything is going to go to private industry. You see what I'm saying? We need something in here saying that this may come available just in case.
Well, all this is the RFP. So let's say Counselor Perry is the engineer. They still have to bring the contract to infrastructure. So any contract with any consultant still comes and has to be reviewed either by the city manager, the attorneys, or somebody. This is to have a pool ready to go. So we can pull somebody off the bench.
Counselor Best?
I'll yield for now.
Okay. Counselor Foster?
Move the mic, 'cause I guess I'm not loud enough in this big room. Are there no longer any current government contract engineers under contract in the state of New Mexico that we could piggyback on?
That's what we're doing right now for an inspector on East Second, and that's why I say the current price for an observer inspector is $94 an hour, and an engineer is $240, and that's Bohannon in Houston,
Right.
And another company, but that's going up for renegotiations. We tried to we're piggybacking right now, but it's nicer if we have our own. And we're not, it just gives us more negotiation room.
Okay, I see that, but do you think we'd be able to negotiate a lower price?
Absolutely. Does Bohannon in Houston have an office here?
No, but I mean, but we have how many engineering firms in town?
Well, we have Souter Miller that's doing some work for us. There's Stantec in town, and then there's Smith Engineering.
So there's three? Okay.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. When we tried to piggyback, it's called the augmentation.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, I look at Roswell as we're not Dexter, we're not Artesia, we're not Socorro. We are the city of Roswell, so we should stand up and
Have our own.
on our own. Yes, sir.
Well, and I understand that. I mean, where it would cost us more to bring in somebody from Albuquerque or Santa Fe. So although I have no vote in this one, but I will when it gets to council.
And again,
I agree that putting out an RFP isn't actually, and maybe we do need to have the language changed a little bit. I didn't read it specifically, but I could see the value of having it set out there just in case we need it.
And again, I want to qualify, if I could, I'd like to qualify 4 consultants, because every consultant has their specialty. And then, again, if those consultants are already on our pool, so to speak, now that you've already got a consultant on a pool, you can actually ask for prices. When you do an RFP off the bat, you don't ask for prices. Once it's been awarded and they have been awarded as qualified, then I could say, Perry Engineering, give me a price. Foster Engineering, give me a price, and we can do some shopping. Again, it's trying to give us a better tool, economic tool, as well to negotiate and take care of the city of Roswell. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I'm just trying to look into the future and the big picture.
Councilor Foster, you finished?
I'm good.
Okay.
So-
Councilor Best?
So to put this in my mind correctly, this is the same as the contractors that have worked so many years and put their name on the state roster.
Yeah, it's like having our own CES.
Okay.
And it's like having,
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Does that make
there.
sense? Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, because we'll pull them when we need them, but other than that, we have our own engineer. And
Yeah.
if we lose our engineer, we go out and get another one, but we are utilizing these until necessary. That makes sense to me, thank you.
well, thanks for bringing that up, because that's basically what we're doing. We're establishing our own CES pool for engineers.
That makes sense to me.
And,
I'm
and-
sorry.
and then the other thing is too, Mr. Morris is here. If you notice, I also have planning in the description. So,
So
planning, surveying.
We'll just collect a list. Now, every year, are we gonna upgrade that list?
No, this is a 4-year term.
4 years, okay, thank you. Okay, I yield, I'm sorry, I got that there now.
Well, you know, I equate this to the legal services,
Okay,
because the legal services, I think, when Aaron is not able to address certain issues, we
use
will
other-
go out.
correct,
And
I
think-
get it
And
now.
I think this is pretty much in the same area.
Yeah, I'm a simple woman, you gotta put it in simple terms.
And if I may,
Morris.
this is going to be through a work order system too, I believe, so there's going to be transparency with respect to what actions are being requested from what departments, and that's got to be through, supplied by the engineer through finance as well. So there's transparency, it's not just like an open-ended check.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussions?
Well, that was gonna be my question about the work order in the, in the description here. So you answered my question. I was just, wanting to clarify that.
Yeah, because like on the planning, let's say he needs to go get a survey plat in a hurry, or we need to do an environmental study, or even in facility maintenance, if they hit something like they did in the convention center, they found an environmental area, we have a pool. We no longer,
That makes sense.
we're a metro again. I mean, we're trying to be a big city over here, from my point of view.
Gotcha.
Any further discussion? If not, can I have a motion to send to council?
I'd like him to make a motion to consider the scope of work to send to consent agenda, the scope of work for RFP-20-XXX on-call engineering services.
Have a motion by Councilor Best.
Second.
Second by Councilor Kennard. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, motion carried unanimously. And that's the end of regular items, action items, and now we go to other business, non-action items, and we're gonna skip the department.
Well, yeah, we're gonna skip it. I just want to show you the picture. That was the Nova chip that we did on Main Street. And that was funded in part, I think, $748,000 or $743,000 from legislature. Guess what? We finished last week.
Good.
They came.
We don't do any streets in the south part of town, at least that's right.
And I've been taking care of all parts of town. Again, I look at the big picture, Counselor.
I know you do.
But just wanted to point that out, that especially now that I got the news that Governor might try to call back some 19 money, that's already spent. Hopefully I'll get an invoice Wednesday and okay to pay it, and
Awesome.
we're good. But on the department reports, if you have any questions, I'll take them and I'll get a response back from the appropriate department heads.
I do have a question, and I don't know if it's an appropriate question or not, so tell me if it is or not. It's on Smith Corporation, the letter that we got.
Oh, A.O. Smith for the water treatment.
Mr. Morris, would you like to address that?
Forest.
And let me explain why I'm asking this question, is because it seemed to me that we have made contact with him and he was okay with it. But in reading the letter, it doesn't seem like he's okay with it at all.
If I may, this process has been going through an RFP.
Okay.
And it was required to be finished up. We opened up last week. We're now in the process of evaluating our response that we did get from those that did respond. And when we're done, we have to do what we have to do. What they're asking for is basically, if you're in the private sector, you can do whatever you want to do. We're bound by law to follow the RFP process, and we'll follow to completion. And then after that, they've been allowed to be involved, but we'll still have a meeting with these guys because they have been here for 32 years.
Yeah.
And we understand that. And so, but we still have to comply with state law with respect to the procurement process. And when we're done, we can have that discussion with them.
Councilor
So I think if I remember right, we have to put the RFP out twice or 3 times before then we can negotiate with someone else?
Twice.
Twice. And this is our second time?
Yes, ma'am.
So once this is over, then we can negotiate with,
If it turns out that it doesn't work, and we make that, and the committee makes a recommendation to not follow through, then we can go through and request that second RFP process becomes null and void, then we can go out
and then usually it goes through the manager of the city, if I'm correct.
that is, as, or is designated.
Yeah. I was stretching back for that one.
Good job.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on it because it didn't seem like the information was jiving with,
How much more do we have to go on the RFP? How many more months?
We're gonna be talking to people next week, or this week.
Okay. So we have had bids come in.
We've already met, and now we're having our discussion, internal stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 RFP processes have already been done, so now we've met the state statute.
Well, we still have to finalize the second one, and then we'll see where that goes.
Okay.
so do we have anybody in the other room for public comment? Is Larry back there?
I think Larry has self-quarantined himself at his house.
Oh, is that right?
Because he has underlying conditions.
Oh,
So
okay.
hi, Larry. You can see us. We're thinking about you. They're taping it. Are we live? Or are they taping it, or whatever? I think they're taping it. Ah.
Counselor, no public.
Okay. There's no public comments, so that ends the meeting, and so if there's no objection, this meeting is adjourned according to my cell phone, 4:58.
Yes, before Bill's goes off at 5. What? Your watch always goes off at 5 in the middle of meetings.
Well, I don't mean it.
It's to push us on. I get it. Hint, hint, hint.
It's a subtle picture.
And I hope we all stay safe.
Oh, we'll be safe.
Dangerous